The vacant lot on Norton Avenue is wet from morning rain, the grass flattened in patches. A young mother pushing a stroller looks toward what she thinks is a discarded department store mannequin. The skin is too white, the waist is wrong. She steps closer, and then she stops, because mannequins do not have hair, and they do not have a mouth that has been cut from ear to ear into something the newspapers will later refuse to print. It is January 15th, 1947. The body has been drained of blood, washed, and posed. And the woman lying in the grass is 22 years old. Who killed Elizabeth Short, and why has no one ever been arrested for it? Her name is Elizabeth Short. Friends call her Betty. She is born in Boston in 1924, the third of 5 daughters, raised mostly by her mother after her father stages his own suicide during the Depression by leaving his car on a bridge and disappearing. He resurfaces years later in California. Elizabeth, as a teenager, writes to him. Eventually, she goes west to find him. The reunion does not last. By her early 20s, she is moving between Florida, Massachusetts, and Southern California, working as a waitress, sometimes as a film extra, often relying on the kindness of men who buy her dinner and the kindness of girlfriends who let her sleep on their couches. She has dark hair she sets in elaborate curls. She wears black, often. She has bad teeth she hides by filling the cavities with wax. She is, by every account from people who knew her, soft-spoken, romantic, restless, and broke. In the fall of 1946, she is in San Diego, staying with a family she barely knows. In early January 1947, a married salesman named Robert Manley, who calls himself Red, drives her north to Los Angeles. He drops her at the Biltmore Hotel on the evening of January 9th. She tells him she is meeting her sister there. She is seen in the lobby for several hours, using the house phone, checking her makeup. Around 10 that night, she walks out the south entrance onto Olive Street. After that, for nearly 6 days, no one can say with certainty where Elizabeth Short is, or who she is with. 6 days is a long time to disappear in a city the size of post-war Los Angeles. The police will later canvass hotels, bars, drugstores, bus stations. They will collect more than 100 reported sightings. Almost none of them can be confirmed. A woman in black is seen at a bar in the Crown Grill on Spring Street. A woman matching her description is seen at a dive in Hollywood. A woman who might be her is seen getting into a dark sedan with a man in a fedora. What investigators do know is what was done to her body. The autopsy is performed by Frederick Newbar, the chief coroner. The injuries are catalogued in clinical language that has, in the decades since, become some of the most studied forensic prose in American crime. She has been bisected at the waist, cleanly, between the lumbar vertebrae, by someone with anatomical knowledge. The cuts to her face extend the corners of her mouth. There are rope marks on her wrists, ankles, and neck. The body has been scrubbed, possibly with gasoline. There is no blood at the scene. She did not die where she was found. This is the first thing that tells the detectives they are not looking for an impulsive killer. This is someone who had time, someone who had a place, someone who knew how to drain a body and how to clean it afterward. And here is where the case takes a turn no investigator saw coming. 9 days after the body is found, a manila envelope arrives at the offices of the Los Angeles Examiner. The address is cut and pasted from newspaper headlines. Inside are Elizabeth Short's birth certificate, her social security card, photographs, an address book with the name Mark Hansen embossed on the cover, and a note that reads, in pasted letters, "Here is Dahlia's belongings. Letter to follow." The envelope has been wiped down with gasoline. There are no fingerprints. The address book is missing pages. More letters follow. Some are typed, some are handwritten. One promises the killer will turn himself in, then taunts that he has changed his mind. The Examiner publishes them. The Examiner, in fact, has been involved in the case from almost the beginning, having phoned Elizabeth's mother in Massachusetts pretending she had won a beauty contest in order to get biographical details before telling her, mid-call, that her daughter was dead. The press names her the Black Dahlia, after a film noir released the year before, and after the black clothing she liked to wear. The nickname will outlive everyone connected to the case. The investigation is enormous. The LAPD interviews more than 150 suspects in the first weeks alone. They look at Robert Manley, the salesman who dropped her at the Biltmore. He passes a polygraph. They look at Mark Hansen, the nightclub owner whose address book arrived in the envelope. He had wanted a relationship with Elizabeth. She had refused. He, too, is cleared. They look at a bellhop, an army corporal, a mortician's assistant, dozens of men who confess to the killing and then cannot answer basic questions about the body. By the end of 1947, the official tally of false confessions is over 50. By the end of the century, it will be more than 500. There are several theories about who actually did it. The first, and the one given the most weight by working detectives at the time, is that Elizabeth Short was killed by a man with medical training. The bisection at the waist is performed at the exact spot a medical student would learn to use, the joint between the second and third lumbar vertebrae. The drainage of blood and the cleaning of the body suggest access to a basement, a garage, or a clinical setting. This theory has, over the decades, attached itself to several specific individuals, including a Los Angeles physician named George Hodel, whose own son, a retired LAPD detective, has spent years arguing publicly that his father was the killer. The LAPD did surveil George Hodel in 1949. They placed listening devices in his home. On the recordings, a man's voice says, "Supposin' I did kill the Black Dahlia. They couldn't prove it now." He was never charged. The second theory points to a man named Leslie Dillon, a hotel bellhop and aspiring writer who wrote letters to a police psychiatrist showing intimate knowledge of the murder. Dillon was held for questioning, then released. The detective who pursued him, a man named Harry Hansen, believed for the rest of his life that the right suspect had slipped away. The third theory is broader and harder to disprove. It is that Elizabeth Short was killed by someone she met in those 6 missing days, someone whose name never made it into a single report, someone whose only mistake was choosing a victim who would become famous, and whose only luck was that the LAPD of 1947 was overwhelmed, leaky, and competing with the press for every lead. A fourth theory, raised more recently, suggests the killing was connected to a string of similar mutilation murders of women in Los Angeles in the late 1940s. Some of those cases also remain unsolved. Detectives at the time considered the link and ultimately set it aside. Whether they were right to is something later investigators have questioned. The case file on Elizabeth Short was never closed. It still sits, technically active, with the Los Angeles Police Department. The physical evidence, the original envelopes, the address book, the letters, has been handled, transferred, lost, and partially recovered over 75 years. Some of it is gone. What remains has been tested against modern forensic methods with no conclusive result. Everyone who interviewed her, everyone who saw her in the Biltmore lobby that last night, everyone who worked the original case is dead. The vacant lot on Norton Avenue is no longer vacant. There is a house there now. People live in it. Most of them, when asked, say they do not think about it. The question that has never been answered is not just who killed her. It is where she was for those 6 days. Someone fed her. Someone spoke to her. Someone, at some point in that week, decided what was going to happen to her body and prepared the room where it would happen. That person walked into a drugstore or a diner or a hotel lobby, and no one remembered their face clearly enough to draw it. They went home afterward. They lived a full life. They died, probably, of something ordinary. If you have a theory about what really happened, drop it in the comments. I read every one.